Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Fassetians, how are you doing? Hopefully you are in the good conditions and Allah blesses us with health, prosperity, and afterward the success. So right now we are talking deeper a little bit into great blockchain and what the scholars and maybe the influence of the AI on the Islamic, not Islamic finance, but Islamic law as a whole, Islamic law discipline as a whole. And my name is Devin. I will be your host today. And this is Mufti Faras Adam, the director of Fasset Islamic and the CEO of Amani Advisor. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. So maybe a little bit of what you are doing now, apart from the Fasset itself.
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So look, my entire journey is about servicing people and helping people, right? In getting closer to Allah, but in an economic space, specifically empowering people and helping people to become asset owners, building their wealth in a way which adds value to their lives and the world as a whole. That's what my focus is.
So that means you are focusing on Islamic finance projects or broader than that, because people think if Islamic finance is just financing and loaning and other stuff, but I think there is other sides of that, like waris, for example, or wasiyah and other things like that. Do you
Yeah, so
have?
look, in muamalat as a whole, look, my focus for many years now has been muamalat. Muamalat has everything, as transactions, trading, finance, wills. There's an element of zakat in there. So my kind of like day to day and my focus, my research, my learning, my studies, until now I'm still studying, and inshallah my aim is to study until I pass away.
Yep.
So my whole thing is, how do we understand the contemporary world that we live in, and not only just observing and learning, but how do we become producers of value? That's the real thing. As students of knowledge, it's not just about reading, it's about writing, it's about adding value. So we learn and we grow, we build and we impart. The whole point of being a student of knowledge is that you are able to understand correctly, accurately, the knowledge and the ilm that we have. And then you are able to serve people as well. Because nashrul ilm is part of spreading knowledge, is part of the responsibility that we have.
I actually agree with that as well. So I'm a student of knowledge as well. I learn a lot from industry players, like from Facet here, from securities here in Indonesia, and you know, now thinking about how to actually help Muslims with this kind of connections and knowledge that I have. But speaking about student of knowledge, right now we have scholars in Islamic law, not just Islamic finance, but Islamic law as a whole, who actually issues fatwa. Maybe this is my personal opinion, subjectively, and not really understanding the case that he's issuing fatwa on holistically. So, for example, right, the easiest thing is the Bitcoin, right? So, or the crypto as a whole. They issuing fatwa because it's volatile, for example, or because there is no underlying assets to it. But the thing that I realize is that they are not learning enough about the crypto itself. So they are not learning enough about the case. And then because maybe because people need it or what, they issues the fatwa before they finish their learning process. And this happened, in my opinion, in a lot of scholars, especially in Indonesia, even outside the crypto. For example, there is certain scholars that actually said that Islamic insurance is haram, and they don't know how the fund is run, how the actuaria is, and they don't know how the money is managed, and other stuff that they should actually have in their minds before they issue that fatwa. Because that I think that actually changes the fatwa itself.
Okay, let me just comment on that, because I don't totally agree with that statement,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why. Look, there's two different things. Every scholar has studied and learnt the responsibilities of fatwa, right? The art of fatwa, adab al-fatwa, and usul al-ifta. It's a any scholar who's giving fatwa must have studied this, right?
Exactly.
They have to study this. Secondly, there is no threshold that we can hold scholars to and say a scholar must learn X amount before he can give a fatwa. Because scholars by nature, they will be doing research. They will be asking, they will be questioning, they will be also reviewing. No scholar will just write a fatwa without reading something, right? They will always learn something. Yes, for sure. Now, a second point is, of course, every answer must be backed with sound knowledge, research, understanding. But the truth is, in many of these matters, because these are new phenomena, these things didn't exist before. Everyone is trying their best to come to a answer. Now, it's natural and normal in everything in life, in contemporary issues. It's normal to have difference of opinion. It's normal. You'll have good. I know good scholars. I know good scholars
Yeah.
who've done good research.
Ah.
Their opinion will be different to another scholar who will say, for instance, Bitcoin may be halal, but another scholar might have a different view.
Yeah.
I might not agree with his view,
Yep.
but that doesn't mean I'll say that he
Yep.
hasn't done his research. He's done his research, but I don't agree with his conclusion and his way of thinking.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
That's
it's normal. This is normal in among scholars for fatwa that they'll have different things they look at. Yes, you can have argument. It's always good to have peer review. This is the most important. I believe this is the most important bit. Whenever you issue an opinion or anybody issues an opinion, it's always good to look at different arguments. In fact,
yeah.
there's a concept which I really like, which I wrote about maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, which is called a Sharia sandbox. The Sharia sandbox is an idea, right? Like in the fintech world, in different countries, you have something called a sandbox, where you can test different ideas, technologies, and get regulator support, regulator insight. From a Sharia perspective, maybe it's better practice that we don't have a fatwa on mu'amalat matters, something to do with mu'amalat, where there's no clear riba or anything, nothing's clear. We just first test it, try it, use it, and then after 5, 6, 7 years of testing, then you get fatwa. You see?
That's interesting actually. So it's always like innovation comes first, fatwa comes second, right? In that sandbox.
Of course. Innovation will allow people to try use for the ulama, scholars, regulators,
Yeah,
industry practitioners to observe what's happening.
to actually understand
Exactly.
that
And then
on.
as a collective, everybody put their part and then you come to a fatwa at the end.
Oh, that's very interesting because in our country the fatwa is almost issued by every scholars that known to that the well-known scholars can almost issue their opinions and they are stronger than the legal fatwa here. That's what makes it very interesting. And actually I kind of want to add to that because like you said there is no issue to have difference of opinion, but for me the one thing that's key is the tasawwur itself, right? What understanding of the case itself. If there is two scholars have the same understanding of one case, and then they said one is A, one is B, that's good. That's a real opinions difference, right? But if there is one that understanding it 100%, then there's one that understanding it 50%, 30%, 70%, 20%, I think I would choose this one because of that understanding first.
Agreed. That's why the classical scholars, the fuqaha, they mention when there's a difference of ijtihad amongst the scholars that you follow, you look at two things, ilm and taqwa. Who is a'lam and who is atqa? This is what the fuqaha mention. So when you have two views, which view should you follow? The view of the scholar who has the most, from your perspective, you feel this person has more taqwa. That's from your observation. Secondly, the one who has more ilm about the matter, ilm of the topic. So it's right that when you have these different views, Find the scholar who you feel has the most taqwa, and then who has the most ilm. And then if you follow that as a person, then inshallah you fulfill your duty of doing ittiba' of the ulama. That's the responsibility that we have.
Yes,
فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ
yes.
الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ.
Exactly.
Our job is to ask the people of knowledge and understanding if we don't know.
Yeah, that's wow, very insightful for me as well. I will take that for myself. And then maybe we just jump to another topic. This is for the Bitcoin Bitcoin side of things. There's Bitcoin Maxi, and then there is one that really hates Bitcoin. It's almost like very interesting, but Bitcoin is kind of polarized, almost like there's two sides. There is no middle man between them. The one that's very supportive of it, and the one that's very against it, right? So, what do you think about first the Bitcoin Maxi that think that Bitcoin can be the replacement of the fiat system and then become, what should I say, riba free system and money some system that free from money printing. They sometimes misunderstand money printing for riba, in my opinion. But what do you think your opinion on that?
In almost every matter, there's always two sides to the
Yeah,
story, right?
exactly.
Oh, yeah, we've seen this now recently with Bitcoin, where you have two different extremes, right, which
Exactly.
you're saying.
Exactly.
The reality is, look, everybody, wherever you sit on that spectrum, wherever you are, whichever opinion you hold, it's fine. Look, a person who's so into Bitcoin, they'll have reasons for being so into Bitcoin.
Exactly.
For those who are against Bitcoin, they'll have their own reasons. But the thing is, there has to, if everybody on that spectrum learns more, engages more, speaks amongst themselves more, there's conversation, there's
Ah.
dialogue.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
believe that dialogue and the conversation will bring people in the middle, because
Will make the spectrum a little bit
of
smaller.
100%. That's why typical extreme, any kind of extreme comes without dialogue. It comes without, when you don't engage, you
Yeah.
don't learn from people.
Yeah.
A lack of knowledge creates extremes. So it's good to always engage, not only engage with people who agree with you, engage with people who also disagree with you. That gives you a chance to look in the mirror and ask yourself, was I right or was I wrong? Because many a time, when you believe in something, you don't want to listen to anybody else,
Exactly.
right? So it's good. You should always ask yourself now and then, am I actually right? Is my view, how I feel, actually correct? How will I know that? When I listen to a different argument. If I listen to the same
Yeah,
person telling
exactly.
me the same thing every day, I am not going to think differently.
Exactly.
But if you listen to different people and you can respond to all their questions, objections, that means then you are right 100%. You understand? So by engaging with different people, the benefit is you get to review your own opinion.
Yep.
And if you are right, you become more confident in your opinion and you
Yeah.
have more knowledge in your field.
Yeah.
So it's always good. That's why my advice is to everyone, wherever you are on the spectrum,
Yeah.
just have more dialogue, engage, look at different people's arguments.
Yeah.
I read, like personally, it's my personal practice. I read people's writings, research papers who don't agree with Bitcoin at all. I read all of it.
Yeah.
And I read people who are only into Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
I read this, I benefit from that as well.
Yeah.
Everybody has something to benefit.
Yeah.
And for me as an individual, I want to take benefit from wherever I find it.
Yeah, that's very interesting actually. So, you know, it's very important for us as a student of knowledge or even as a Muslim to actually have broadened views on everything. So, when you heard maybe if you heard somebody say it or even your scholar said, maybe you can listen to another scholar who has different opinion on certain matters. That's what somebody lacking.
That's seeking knowledge, isn't
Yes,
it?
this seeking
It's
knowledge.
part of, and that's part of our tradition.
And yeah, but they are some of them are hiding behind the concepts of taklid. So if you, for examples, if you are considered yourself, not knowledgeable enough to become muttabi', which is understanding the dalil and blah 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 and all that stuff, learning. Some of them are thinking, you know what, I don't have ability to learn the dalil, to actually, doing the thinking of these opinions, especially in the matters that are difficult. I just following the scholars that I believe is good. And sometimes they're landing on the scholars that actually don't understand the matter. That's
Mm.
the issue.
Yeah, but see, for the lay person, they're not responsible to do, like, follow the dalil, like look at the dalil. That's the reality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
For the normal person on the street, for him, it's enough to do taqleed of the ulama. Finish. Right. So now, how do you do that? Whichever school you follow, whichever fiqh you follow, and the ulama of that, that's fine. When it comes to, and even dalil, to be honest, the Quran and Sunnah is so difficult for, and even to contemporary scholars, for us to understand everything is hard.
Yeah,
That's why we have madahib in fiqh,
that's it.
because it's difficult for a person to understand every hadith, to understand the ta'arud, the conflicts of the hadith, to understand what's am, what's khas, what's ma'alul bil illa, what's not ma'alul bil illa, is very difficult.
Yeah, very difficult.
That's why the fuqaha, Allah made this system of different schools coming and developing. That's why you had the Hanafi school come, the Shafi'i school, the Maliki school. In fact, we have in the beginning times we had so many different schools and different fuqaha and mujtahidun. But these four became the prominent schools with methodologies which are sound. So coming back to the people, for the most people, it's enough for them to find a scholar in contemporary matters who they feel is atqa and a'lam, who has taqwa and the most taqwa, and they feel that this person is has integrity and he has knowledge in ilm or sharia, the most knowledge, that they feel confident, right, that this person has knowledge, and then follow the opinion. It's fine. They will not be responsible more than that in contemporary
Yep,
matters.
exactly. But the thing is that right now, for example, it's very interesting that there is certain difference in type of so they're following him before understanding that, because I think the muamalah right now is very complex, that even the ustad that specify himself in muamalah da'wah sometimes doesn't even cover the whole phenomena of this muamalah. This is very huge, and some of them follow these scholars and then just landing on the case that he doesn't understand.
But that's my argument against that will be, how do I know as a layperson how much he understands? If I don't know, how do I know he doesn't know?
Mm,
You see? So
yeah.
who am I to judge? How can I judge that this scholar doesn't know? I can't judge because I don't know myself.
Maybe not. Maybe the not the understanding of Sharia. Of course, he's better than me, but he lacks the under. For example, they ask something that he lacks understanding of technical sides of that certain matter only.
But then how do I know that if I don't know it myself?
No, no, no. For example, we know, and then we sometimes people strangely he know himself the technical sides of it, and then he has the scholars who does that he knows doesn't understand the technical sides of it,
So
and he still follow that scholars.
so the problem is not the scholar. The problem is the person himself. Why are
Ah,
you going to a scholar and asking him a question when that's not his
mm,
expertise? You see,
yeah, yeah,
every
exactly.
scholar has an area, a specialism. One scholar is an expert in Quran, is a qari. There's another scholar who's an expert in hadith. Now, if I want to answer on Quran and qira'ah, I will not
Yeah,
go to a hadith specialist. I'll go to a qari. If I want a question on Hajj, I got a question on Hajj. Shall I go to a scholar who's never been to Hajj? No, I will go to a scholar who's a master in Hajj, who's been for
yeah,
Hajj, and ask him, look, this is the question.
yeah,
So even in mu'amalat, if you have a question, go to those scholars who specialize in mu'amalat.
yeah,
So I
exactly.
would say it's not the problem of the scholars. The problem is with the people. We need to educate people, that
Ah,
educate the people and tell them, You go to the scholars who are specialists in those areas to learn your knowledge.
Yeah. So this is the message, from us to whoever watching this video, to actually, when you ask about something, learn who you ask to. Don't just ask the scholars that you find, or even asking the popular scholars that not even specialized in certain area. You need to actually find the scholars that actually fit your questions. You need to educate yourself before you ask.
Yes, look, questions are not easy. Questions are not easy. Questions are a burden. Our Salaf, the Sahaba, radiallahu anhum, were extremely cautious and didn't want to answer questions. It's not a fun thing.
Yeah.
Because if I speak about Islam,
Yeah.
I'm answerable for what I say. I'll be held accountable.
Yeah.
So it's a duty to first, me as an individual, make sure I know what I'm talking about. But then, more importantly, I'm accountable for what I say. So when you go to scholars, scholars don't, it's not fun. It's a responsibility. It's a duty. It's an obligation. How, what will I say to Allah? That's why when you ask questions, first, always have good questions. Don't ask any
Bad
question.
questions,
Yeah,
exactly.
ask questions which are real, which impact your life, which have some purpose to it, and also explain the scenario
Ah,
properly. You
that's
should you should say, look, for instance, you mentioned that I have more technical knowledge perhaps than the scholar. If that's the case, you should present the technical knowledge
exact.
and then say to the scholar, look, this is all the technical understanding, this, and this, and this. This is what it is. What does a Sharia say about this technical stuff here? That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, that's very important, to actually educate yourself before asking the question, so you don't put pressure on
No,
the
but
scholars.
one is pressure, but one is making sure both sides are the same then.
Yeah, on the same
Because
page.
exactly, if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
asking a question, for instance, I'm asking a scholar about something, but I'm not giving my full context and scenario, then of course his answer will not be
Fully
like,
baked as well.
it'll not be fully like reflective of what my issue is. So whenever
Yeah.
you have a problem or question, always put the full picture.
Really specify it.
Yeah, and be very clear, because everything can change the answer. In Sharia,
Yeah.
in Fatwa, how it works is any difference you miss can have a different answer. So always be very clear and be detailed when you have different issues.
So, that's the message as well to our, to our viewers here, to actually really open up, don't just open what you think you ask. Sometimes people just ask, what is the case of this disease, and just maybe two sentences, and then when I ask them even further, and then I discovers whole new, whole new set of knowledge, that if I know this, I will not say that.
I'll tell you something else as well. Many times scholars give a fatwa or write an answer, they'll mention a whole page, but the person asking the question, he'll only take the last line or the first line. He won't make amal upon the whole page. So when scholars give fatwa, they'll have conditions, this, and this.
Yeah,
What people do
the
is
doabit.
they don't look at that. They just take the answer. Yes, this is permissible,
Yeah,
and that's it. Do what they want.
yeah, that's actually
So
cool.
follow the full answer that you get.
Yeah, even so, that's the message to our, it's not just about asking and then get, it's almost like they think of fatwa almost like a takeaway. They just order it and then it comes in. It's not like that. You need to really prepare your questions, and then after the answers come, really comprehend it. Put it in your mind. What is the conditions that make it halal? What is the conditions that make it haram? What is the condition and that make it makruh or even hate it? Sometimes people asking about what is the Islamic rules on imani, and then what type of imani? There is tons of imani. There is regulations of imani, and then they start to say it, blah 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 blah, and then he just follow. Okay, the scholar said this is haram, and then in the middle there's, it's not completely haram. There's discounts to it, and the discount may be haram if this and that and that. They don't even read that. They just say the iman is haram. That's what I found myself here in one cases, and that's as well the crypto as well. You know, the fatwa itself from Indonesia, Indonesia Fatwa Council actually said that there is a possibility of halal crypto if they are backed by underlying and this and that and this and that. And then people just said crypto is haram because the Fatwa Council. No, the Fatwa Council put conditions on it. You just don't read it. So you should be, for our viewers, you should be more educated to the questions and more educated towards the answers as well. That's very eye-opening from you, Mufti. That's very interesting. Maybe the last questions. So my last questions will be: you are doing research on AI, right? Right now at IUM, if I recall. That's my previous campus as well at Master. So what? Why you are interested in learning AI specifically for Islamic law?
Yeah, so my PhD thesis is on developing a Sharia governance framework for artificial intelligence.
Okay.
That's what it is. So, because passion is in Sharia, that's my passion. I like to explore and research new issues from a Sharia lens because Sharia has guidance for every century. So, this AI is going to shape the world, it's changing the world drastically. If you look at the data on the potential change AI will have over the next 50 years, it's mind blowing. Look at some of the
Exactly.
predictions, how our life will change
Yeah, yeah.
completely.
In 5 years even.
So, if that's the case, how do we ensure that we're doing things in a way which fulfills the Sharia principles and is Sharia guided?
Yeah, it should be above. You should be advanced. You should be
Exactly.
now.
So, if that's the case, we need to start the work now. We're already behind. We need to build, code, write, develop models, train models, which are from a Sharia perspective, completely Sharia aligned. So my whole thesis is exploring the area of artificial intelligence from what it is, from a Sharia and fiqh perspective. How do we understand AI? What is it from a Sharia perspective? And then what are the principles and rulings to make sure it's done in a safe way, in a Sharia compliant way, and a way which is productive and not harmful.
Very interesting. Because I actually have one. I don't know how should I say it. Very, I don't know. Very dangerous thought on my mind that if certain scholars are not adapting or not, for example, not really advancing themselves enough, AI at some moment will replace them. Certain scholars that's not really specialized in certain things, really specialized on to certain objects, they might be get replaced by AI.
Yeah, so on this point, personally, AI, my view is AI can never replace a scholar. Simple as that. Our ilm is not based on books. Our ilm is based on humans and individuals in the heart. That's how our ilm. Ilm is not information. Ilm is not the same as information. They're two different things. Ilm is this light in the heart of ulama, which you gain. That can never be captured by any AI, no matter how advanced the AI is. AI does not have consciousness.
It's not human.
No, it has no consciousness, it has no heart, it has no understanding. AI is algorithms and code, it's based on mathematics. That's what it is. So there's no AI will write, it'll give you answers, but it doesn't understand what it's writing. It's just based on a equation. That's what's happening in the back end.
Yeah, I
Right?
learned machine learning as well, so I know that.
So the the AI can never ever replace ulama because fatwa ilm is very contextual. It requires some emotional intelligence. It requires understanding. It requires context, and it requires taqwa, which AI can never have,
Yeah,
because
it's never.
taqwa comes from the recognition of Allah. Recognition of Allah comes from aql. Aql is only in humans, not in AI. That's why no matter how advanced the AI, that will not be ilm, that's just information. Ilm will always be with the ulama, ilm will always be in the hearts of ulama,
Yeah.
and they will guide you. Yes, the ulama may use AI. Ulama will use AI and benefit from AI. They will benefit from this. But yet the guidance, the end answer will come from a scholar.
That's very important actually to mention. But at the same time, there is people who actually ask about their problems and they don't find, I don't know how should I say it, satisfactory you know satisfactory answers from scholars, and then he asks AI, and then he find a good one.
The
Some
problem with that is though the person asking. Like if you're asking scholars, how are you judging what's satisfactory? Like if you're the one who has a problem, like, if I've got a disease, I go to a doctor, he gives me a cure or gives me some medication. I'm not a doctor. I'll take whatever the doctor tells me. He gives me
Yep.
these tablets. How do I judge whether these tablets are good for me? I don't know. I'm trusting his knowledge.
Yep.
So the problem is when people who don't have Sharia knowledge, they begin to say, okay, yeah, but this scholar doesn't know, this scholar doesn't know. But how do you know he doesn't know? Because you don't have the technical knowledge. So sometimes just because an answer doesn't fit your desire
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Nah.
Sometimes the answer is right, but I'm wrong. And that's important as well.
Yeah. So that's very important to actually, actually, I think AI, at certain level, that replaces Ustad if there is no ethical guidance on that. So your research is very important to actually lay that, that
That
ethical
should never
guidance.
happen. Yeah, that should never
That
happen.
should never happen.
AI
Yes.
should never ever. And if that happens, we failed. The ummah has failed because we haven't created enough ulama and students of knowledge.
Yeah. Exactly.
We need ulama who have learned from real scholars because that ilm is light. Al ilmu nurun. Right? That's why we have to make sure we have enough scholars, students of ilm, and yeah, let them use AI, but they will make sure that whatever they're doing aligns with the
Yeah.
Sharia principles.
Yeah. Basically they should, they should enough scholars who actually understand ummah's problem and then provide them the answer. They just use the AI for analytics. Maybe they
It's a
put,
tool.
it's a tool.
AI is a tool.
It's
Just like how I use a computer. Look, 100 years ago, people would write fatwas with a pen.
yes.
500 years ago, people would use a feather and ink.
Yep.
Today, scholars write fatwas on computers
Computers.
and phones.
Or even
These are just tools.
yeah, just machines learning for
Exactly.
yeah.
So AI is a tool also. Scholars will use it, benefit from it, no problem. Use it as much as possible in a good way. But your research, your ilm, your good practice, your good deeds, all of that you have to do yourself. Still.
Still. And actually I think the interesting implication of AI from scholars is actually if they have their own AI and then they train themselves, so it mimics how they're thinking. It obviously not gonna copy their heart, but it's gonna copy how they think, and then it will help them to actually produce, first of all, the better quality fatwa and actually more of it because the case
Yeah.
is keep
Even this
rising
though,
on.
look, whilst I've been doing my research on AI, you can train it and make a model which is a reasoning. You get two types of models, reasoning and non-reasoning models. So you can have a reasoning model which has inferences, but the human inference is still very different. Because where does it come from? It comes from Allah. Like this is important. Like knowledge comes from Allah. Allah tells in the Quran that fear Allah and Allah will teach you. Right?
It's the human nature.
So ilm comes onto the heart of a
Yeah.
scholar. That can never come on AI. It's your connection with Allah. Now, when that's the case, sometimes answers, knowledge, and everything that comes with an answer in a fatwa, you as a student of knowledge, is based on your experiences, your understanding of circumstances. For instance, there might be training data that I've put in my knowledge.
Exactly.
I put it in the AI, but what if I've not written this down that once I sat with my teacher told me this. I've not written that down, but it's in my mind. Or it's I observed. I saw my teacher answering this question, doing this. The AI will not capture that. AI will not have that experience.
Mm.
So answers can never always be captured by the training data set in an AI. Never. Because answers require more than just the written.
Yeah.
It requires observation. I observed the scholar do this. Like so many hadith. We have a hadith where the Sahaba say, I saw the Prophet ﷺ doing this. I saw the Prophet ﷺ doing this.
Yeah.
Now, before he said that, it was an experience and observation.
Yeah.
No book had that. No AI can have that. So fatwas and answers also are made from
Always.
observations.
Yeah.
And AI data cannot capture that.
Yeah, so it will help them, but it will not replace them. That's
Never.
the
It
guy.
can never replace them.
Yeah, that's the
It can
that's
never
the point.
replace them.
That's
the
the point.
no training data, no matter how much you train that data, there's things which will always be missed out. And not only that, remember, this is based on maths. It can still have errors. It still hallucinates.
I mean, yeah, that's the program within it that actually tell them to even make maudu hadith.
Yeah. Like I noticed recently, because I was doing some work, I was testing something and just training a data set. I was just like working and fine-tuning some a model.
Yeah.
And the AI came out with so many baseless hadith fabricated. It wasn't even a
Yeah,
hadith.
it's not even, it's nonsense.
Absolutely. It's just quoting some Arabic and it doesn't even exist. So this is that's why it's very dangerous. Don't rely on AI for your answers. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's never gonna happen.
It's not. It's just the right thing. Go to your scholars. Your responsibility will be absolved by asking a scholar. Whatever the scholar says and you follow, it's
Yeah.
fine. An answer doesn't have to always be accurate. Remember this.
Yeah.
It's very important. Answers do not have to be accurate. But what has to be 100% is the way you learn your knowledge and the way you gain your answer.
Yeah.
So if you go to a scholar, in your heart, he has knowledge and piety. He has taqwa.
Yeah.
You've done your part. In front of Allah, you've done your job.
Yeah, the scholar is responsible for learning himself.
Yeah. But you're responsible for asking the right person. That's it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter then whether the answer is right or wrong. You ask, you follow, your job is done. You don't have anything to worry about then.
Very interesting because there is some scholars that I know that actually starting to help themselves. So for example, there's certain scholars that's very famous. There is tons of questions come to them every day, and then they give setups of questions to the AI, and then they said, you know what? This is the questions that I usually answered. You learn from it, and then I give you my next questions. You just write it for me, and he said that satisfies me. And then I thought, then that's interesting.
But the truth with that is, if any knowledgeable person reads those answers, they'll know those answers are one AI based, and second is false. That's why in Islam,
Right.
from a tradition of the scholars,
This is what from the person. So the scholars. So I don't know how he do that. So he actually not how he thought about that. So he came. There is tons of questions from in certain area of ilm, and then he just, you know what, I pay for you the ChatGPT that, so I will train you with every questions I ask, I get answered and until now, and then yeah, the next you will answer that question for me, and then he throw that question straight into the WhatsApp group. That's I actually thought that's dangerous actually.
yeah. I mean, that should not happen. But as I said,
Don't rely on that.
in Islam, we have a system of peer review,
Yeah.
right? You have a system of peer review. So you should always be having different scholars looking at your answers and concurring or objecting, and that's how you learn.
So that's very eye opening and actually very, very new for me. And actually looking forward to your final thesis to actually learn.
No, Jazakallah khair. Inshallah. I hope to finish it this year.
So that's it for now. And that's a very interesting talk. And the next, maybe we will get even better content next from Facet. But for now, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Excellent.